You are listening to the Social Hotelier Show, a podcast that inspires hoteliers to create meaningful and memorable experiences for their customers in pursuit of their passion. We share our views and experiences relating to hospitality, technological trends, and also relating to humanity. Here is your host, Sam-Erik Ruttmann.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttmann. Just a small story. I was contacted a while ago by Jelani Millard, and I think it was last year sometime, and he asked me whether I would be interested to be a guest on a podcast he's hosting called Pay Me in a Plane Tickets. First I thought it was a joke, but I realized it's actually a serious podcast program, so I could not resist the invitation. And the podcast me being a guest on that podcast turned out to be an amazing experience. I have had a lot of fun, and so I want to return the favor. And so today we're going to have a chat with Jelani, and he's a professional risk analyst and got into podcasting and also hospitality, and has also his involvement in foundations. So I'm very curious to learn a little bit more about Jelani. So welcome, Jelani, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sam, for having me on. You were an amazing guest on my podcast, Pay Me in Plane Tickets, and I'm just happy to return the favor.
So first of all, for our audience to get some background, and can you tell me a bit about your professional experience and why you got involved to host your own podcast show and with this fun element? It's really something I haven't seen before.
No problem. So a little bit about my background. I'm actually more into finance and more into risk analyst. So I live in spreadsheets all day. So why travel? Why hospitality? Why any of these sort of polar opposites from what I typically deal with on a day-to-day? Mainly, I've been traveling all my life since I was young. My family has taken me and my little sister to plethora of places since mostly summers. We'd go like a lot of different places. A lot of it's mainly because my dad is like a salesperson effectively. And so he would accrue all these miles and points. And so even though we lived a modest lifestyle, we traveled in luxury because we would have all these points and miles. And so when we would travel, we felt like a true family. It was pretty awesome, you know? We would get the red carpet rolled out for us because, you know, of all the different perks you get when you're the high roller in the travel society or whatever it is. I always tell people, you know, the Kardashians would have to wait on us when we would go somewhere. So, travel's just been, you know, very near and dear to me. And as it pertains to hospitality, I became very interested in comfortably critical with certain hotels and different properties and admiring different designs and things of that nature. So I would say it was always a passion to eventually get into travel a little bit deeper. And that's sort of how the inspiration of the podcast started, of Pay Me in Plane Tickets. And then, of course, the Wapechi Collection, which I also run and manage as well. So that's kind of a bit of the beginnings, or sort of the foundation as to why I, you know, am a man of many different things.
That's interesting. I mean, yes. I mean, I think if I understand correctly, you're a graduate in mathematics, and then and spreadsheets are probably your daily activity or minute by minute, and then of course it's a great contrast to getting involved in what you do. But I also found that the way you conduct and you host your podcast, I mean, you come across as a very personable, and it's very easy for the guest to be with you, because you are not. It can be a very kind of a exciting experience to be a guest on somebody's podcast, and I mean, you made it very comfortable for me, and I was very happy that it worked that way. It's one thing of sitting on the other side of the table asking questions, but the other thing is to answer those questions can be sometimes unnerving and so on. But it was very, very good experience. But where have you been? I mean, you said you've been traveling with the family since you've been a kid. And so in what parts of the world have you not visited, if I may ask you? Are there some areas which you haven't been to yet, which are on your bucket list?
Oh, places on my bucket list. Okay, that's a large list. So I'm going to narrow it down to probably the top 5 that I really want to visit right now that are kind of on like pending. Definitely the Maldives, would love to visit. Also, actually, so many lists. Okay, the Maldives. I have not yet seen Japan. I have not yet seen Botswana. I have not yet seen Zanzibar, and I also want to see Tanzania. So most of it is in Africa, but for some reason the Maldives are up there because I think there's this. You have to just go there once and just sort of confirm what everybody says about the Maldives because my family, we've been to Hawaii. I've been to a plethora of Caribbean islands and kind of want to compare it against what I guess is the grandfather of it all, as they say, is the Maldives.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very good idea. I mean, through my work, I had a chance to travel quite a bit, and so it wasn't a holiday visit. It was mostly like I lived in the place for quite some time, but then as a holiday destination, we both enjoyed with my wife to visit Japan because it's quite. You have an image about Japan when you visit it. It's very strong culture, and it's not in your face in a way. It's very kind of toned down, and everything is in balance, and it's quite a wonderful experience. But then, if you're going to Japan, it's worthwhile to hop over to Korea because it's not very far away. I mean, and depending what part of Japan you are, if you're in Tokyo or you go to Osaka, and obviously the cultural, historical areas like Kyoto, those are a must. But then if you make a visit to Korea, the culture is quite different. But even though it's a very short flight time, it's really worth to have that comparison because the food culture alone is very, very different. And that's why we see a lot of Japanese going to Korea because the food is something that they are very excited about to try. So yeah, it's good idea. I haven't been to Africa. I mean, yes, I have been to Africa. I mean, but in this not. It's such a huge continent, first of all. So I mean, I worked in Egypt, and when people ask me, "Well, that's not Africa," well, actually, technically it is, but
yeah.
but I think that the place like Zanzibar would be very exciting, and definitely, and Botswana, definitely, and yeah, I mean, it's a long list if you really want to get into Namibia or Ghana for that matter. I mean, that we have to talk about Ghana actually.
No, exactly. And to go back to your point about Japan, my younger sister went to Japan and she raves about it. And I know others who have been to Japan and they rave about not only the culture, they rave about sort of it's an upgraded New York where it's clean, it's very organized. The food is, how do I say, it's crisp. Everything is sort of cooked to perfection, and it's done with this level of discipline that you don't see in many other countries or even cultures. But yeah, no, definitely Japan, and then yes, definitely going to Africa. You can spend a lifetime in Africa and not have seen the whole continent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's very vibrant in Africa. Depending on which country you are, it's very vibrant. The culture, and then also the generation now who are in the 30s and who are entrepreneurs. They are coming up with some amazing things. So it's really on my list. Also, I really want to make a visit there and hopefully get a job around that too. So it gives me a chance to spend a little bit more than a project meeting when I go there. So
right.
But tell me about hospitality. I mean, okay, it makes clear that you have a interest in hospitality because you had a chance to travel and with a family and so on. But there's other side of that hospitality which comes on professionally. How is that? Where's that interest for you?
That interest actually is fairly new, and I'm still learning that sector as of right now. But it all started with just basically finding that I've always wanted to expand the hospitality market in Ghana through the Wapechi Collection. So I've been blessed in many ways in my life, and so I've been to have this ability to invest in Ghana, invest in multiple properties in Ghana, and begin to sort of start the firm under that sort of underwriting, that underpinning in the Wapechi Collection. So the few villas that we're opening up pretty much can touch on hospitality in a different way. So it's not a true Airbnb style, but it's also not the truest like hotel style. It's very much based around design, it's based around community, it's based around culture. I mean, the way that we've built these villas, and you can have the data behind opening these properties and opening these quasi hotels, but it's definitely the operation that is really the heart of what we're doing. I mean, from what we're designing and implementing and the comfort level of what our guests want to experience, also implementing the community aspect and building the community around these properties, not tradition, that's not traditionally what, at least maybe nowadays, but not traditionally what other hospitality brands do. They pretty much place themselves somewhere and everybody else is very distant from that sort of hospitality economy. But what we're doing is definitely connecting with the community and involving different lifestyles and changes so that when the travelers come and visit, they can truly feel immersed in this particular environment and find themselves sort of cozy and just truly settled in this place as if they're there, and they can kind of feel transformed after. So that's really where I am in this whole process, because the spreadsheet to it, I guess that's my skill. It's pretty much self-explanatory and it's simple and I got it and it's already built. And now it's the execution, the logistics of it all, and still managing sort of these unique elements of the villas that we're replacing and that isn't seen anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I think you're ahead of a lot of people who are working in hospitality, and I tell you why. Traditionally, when people are asking, what's your definition of hospitality? They say, well, customer is king, right?
Right.
But if I ask Jelani, he says communities is the king, because that's the essence of hospitality, and you are really hitting the right in the heart of it, and that's how I talk about hospitality now. And I think we touched on your podcast that how it was seen as a resource that used to be like gated communities where you didn't let the locals in,
right,
and all that stuff. So then, but now, I mean, you're relying on community because they are your suppliers, you have your staff coming from there, and you have to really have the community also embrace that hotel and vice versa. And that's when the guest will get the best experience, when they are getting understanding and learning about that local feel and the vibe that and the location where the hotel is or these villas are. So yeah, I think you have you really hit it right. You're ahead of a lot of people, in fact, in my opinion.
We're just trying to get like you, Sam. We're trying to get like you and implement all those very positive aspects into hospitality. Definitely take a page from your book.
Well, it reminds me, maybe I have to write one of those books one of these days. I have to work on that.
Yeah, get the book first.
Yeah. So you mentioned Wapechi Collection. What is that exactly?
So
about?
The Wapechi Collection. So it's the Wapechi Collection is effectively we own and operate unique villas. The Villas Maji, which is based in Kokobite Beach, Ghana, about 45 minutes outside of Ghana. But it's a collection of uniquely designed boutique properties growing into possibly hotels. But right now they're fairly much single-roomed corners of a particular area. It's named after a nickname I've had. What does it mean? I don't know. One day I'll come up with something profound for that. But it was the simplest thing to come up with. But that's effectively what the Wapechi Collection is, and what I wanted to grow into is something much more transformative in hotel than what you're seeing today, in hospitality than what you're seeing today. So that's the Wapechi Collection as like a mission.
Yeah. So if there would be some touch points that are very important to you that the customer should feel when they stay in one of your villas, could you just name something that actually that is very important to you that the guests should walk away with, and that they have stayed in one of your villas?
They should feel connected in mind, body, and soul. So in our villas, we have natural products for your your body in terms of lotions and different soaps. Everything is locally sourced. We have fresh French linens for you to sleep on. We have a beautiful view of, because all the villas are all placed near water. Water is immersive, but it's also very expansive, and when you never feel closed off or closed in. On top of that, all of our guests get access to locally sourced foods, Gahenian food for these particular locations, but Gahenian foods that are made right maybe 15 minutes down the road, and you can either walk there, we can get it right to you. I mean, it feels almost as if you are part of a family, this larger family here, because we are inviting the community to this new economy, this new sort of space. It's kind of what Airbnb did was connect like homeowners to guests. This is where we're connecting community to guests, as if the community is kind of getting all involved. And so, yeah, that's kind of what my prayer is, that other people get to experience when they actually go into and stay with us and enjoy their time and take that away when they actually leave.
And how do you, who do you want to attract in terms of travelers who would stay with you in these locations? Any thoughts on that?
I say everyone. That's the goal, is always try to get as many as you can. But, being practical, I'm very sure the normal business traveler would probably not be the best person, mainly because we are about 45 minutes outside of Accra, from the airport. So possibly, but hey, if there's a willing business traveler who wants to take a little bit of a break from their day and stay here, trust me, they'll be the best employee the next day, because they would have had a full rest. They would have great food, would have a great environment, a wonderful, comfortable nightlife. In each of our villas, we gift Black-owned wines. So we have wines from Azlina, which is owned by Nsigi Bayela, developed by Nsigi Bayela. We also have wines from Kamushu, who is developed by Tinashe Namandoko. We just treat it as if like, hey, this is something that you should be gifted. And so for all our guests, they definitely get to take home something that I think they wouldn't experience anywhere else.
Wow, that sounds very exciting. Really exciting what you're involved with. I mean, when do you have all the villas available, or is this in the projects? What stage is it? Are these projects?
So the first 2 are available. We're planning 5, so the next 3 will be available staggered with year by year, starting in 2025. So we keep opening up the next 3 over the next 3 years. Yeah.
And how will people find it? And how do you plan to market it, or if you will, to that people will find you, or which platforms are you going to use? Any thoughts on, is this social media, or is it going to be one of those booking.com thing, or?
Right now, 2 of them are on Airbnb, and then of course we have our own direct platform, our website. Hoping to expand to some other OTAs, but still looking at the numbers and the figures of how that all fits in. And of course, the booking management systems have to all sort of talk to each other. So trying to stay comfortable in a comfortable place, because again, it's not as many rooms, but there's a lot of demand. No. So trying to make sure it kind of is balanced in that way.
Yeah. That's one of those things with opening a new place, is that because the commissions can be quite hefty.
Yeah, very true.
And so that's always interesting to see, well, how would I go about, how will people find me? And obviously, if the word gets out, then people actually will find you eventually. And it kind of reminds me, in Korea, I was close to the hotel where we stayed. I didn't eat a single dinner there, but of course we went out always. Yeah. And it was one restaurant I went there, and during the 1 week we stayed in Incheon, we ate 4 meals there, which basically says that we like that food very much. And I made small video. I put it on Instagram, I think. And so then I asked the manager or the person I paid to that, can you tell me which social media platform are you on? Because I like to, give you a plug and promote you. Says, we are not in social media.
At all.
So kind of looked at her. I couldn't believe my eyes. The restaurant is full lunch and dinner 7 days a week.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Word by mouth.
Wow.
Well, great experience. Great experience. They tell a friend who tells a friend, and that's how it goes on. And this is just an example that actually it can work. Some of the smaller great hotel chains are not on. They don't want to pay those 15 to 20% commissions. They find another way for people to find them, and that takes a lot of thinking to get that formula right. But the kind of thing you're doing, and it would make sense to look for different ways to get people get the word out, because you have a great story about that place. So that sounds very interesting.
Well, we have to get the social hotelier. You gotta get more on social media, just as the place you just mentioned in Korea. You need to jump in there. Get her active.
Yeah. So what inspires you with people and places? I mean, there must be some things that gets you excited. Could you speak a little bit about about the inspiration or what you do?
I think stories connect us all. I think that is the sort of the thin line, the thread line between all of us. That was the main reason I started the podcast. So I'm not a natural media person, I would say, but I always had an intrigue into the travel influencer, the new generation of travelers, and how they were able to or are able to navigate the business side of what they're doing. That is just it's fresh and new out the box. I was wondering, how are these individuals getting paid in plane tickets and staying in certain locations, and wondering what is this new business that is sort of being formed here. And I wanted to get their story. I think individuals like yourself, individuals like Susan Barry, you see travel from the luxurious spectacle side, the great pictures, wonderful videos, but you never get to learn about the traveler themselves. And a lot of things, what I've learned in that venture is sort of the true hustle and craft to their work. And it's not as glamorous as it seems. And those who are succeeding in it are really kind of making heavy sacrifices and taking pretty big risks. And a lot of that is just because the hospitality industry has evolved and social media has evolved, and that merge is at times can be strained, at times can be, perfectly, harmonized. And so that's kind of where a lot of what I was doing with the podcast kind of came from. But truthfully, I just love hearing their stories. I like hearing your story. I like hearing the next individual's story and their impact in the travel, or how travel has impacted them, and what sort of, culture they're bringing, and what has transformed them transformed them in a culture that they had just been immersed in. What type of, foods they're enjoying, what did they take away, who did they meet, and why was that person important, and how did that change them? And so this is where sort of the journaling came in, and the story came in for me. And that's kind of why I take a love on just learning about people and learning about them, and seeing how I can apply it to myself, or I can maybe, gift that to somebody else. Like, oh, you might be interested in this because look at what these individuals are doing. And when you talk to other people, you see different ways of life. I think, for myself, like you go through this particular path that's like a set, sort of set boxes and check them off. And then when you sort of see another way of life, you learn that maybe you don't have to do X, Y, and Z. You can, try, G, E, and F. It might work out.
Yeah. So if you look back now, what you have done so far, what would you say are the most important lessons you have learned?
Be patient. Be patient. Don't try to just don't try to rush everything. There's a purpose in it all. there's some blessing in it that you may not understand in the moment, but it'll make sense at a later date and time. And so that's probably one of the most important virtues I've taken on this walk so far. I have a lot more virtues to learn, a lot more to learn, but that is one I can say I have fully accepted.
That's very good. I mean, that's I had to learn that also. So it's something that you learn through. So you have to accept there is failures, and that's not the bad thing. It's actually you can learn something from there as long as you learn something from that. That's the thing.
Yeah, and it works in hospitality too, because you learn that when you're developing these properties, the idea takes 2 seconds, but it takes like 5 years before that lead time before the door is open. A lot of these places. So patience, I think, is a huge skill to have, in this sector.
Yeah. I learned that you're also involved with some foundation or charitable activities. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's beginning to start. We're getting approval for it, but there's a foundation that I'm heading called the See It to Believe It Foundation. And it's basically a simple foundation where we gift plane tickets to individuals who are seeking to change their life in any particular way, maybe see family, maybe go to an event, maybe sort of experience life outside of their hometown. And it's just that simple. We will just gift them the plane ticket because a lot of times people are limited to just one simple aspect of one particular sort of roadblock that they are looking to overcome. And I believe a lot of that can just be a plane ticket. So, and it's called the See It to Believe It. As they say, you got to believe it to see it. But sometimes you got to go there and actually see it for yourself, and it might change you. And so we're right now. It's still kind of in the works. It's still kind of in this early development stage, and getting in the States, getting nonprofit status and different tax codes and all these different things before in a set board of directors before we can actually truly launch. But it is funded. It's sitting there. I think it's something that will impact a lot of people, a lot of lives everywhere. And with the rising cost of plane tickets, rising cost of travel, it just might this foundation just might make or break that individual's or that family's life that they probably would not have been able to experience had this just sort of reprieve placed on them.
Yeah. So I'm sure this is part of your goals and aspirations, but what are your goals or aspirations for the next 5 to 10 years?
To make sure that, I would say my goals for the next 5 years is to ensure that whatever I'm building, whatever I'm doing is done to the fullest. It is done, it's authentic, and it's executed for a longer time. So I wanted to outlive myself, I wanted to outlive anybody else who's running it or owning it. And I wanted to just make sure that it is placed in purpose. It's not something so dealing with, and again, I deal with balance sheets and financial statements all the time, but I want this to be bigger than that a little bit. I mean, of course, understand that you need to have certain fundamentals and metrics in place, but if done right, I think you can impact a larger part of life.
Yeah. That's interesting. What's something people would be surprised to learn about you? Because you're doing the podcasting, you're a financial guy, and you have this development that you're working on with the collection. And so what's something people would be surprised to learn about you who meet you for the first time?
For the first time. I don't know. I'd have to say, what would they be shocked? I think people generally know I do a lot of things, so maybe they probably wouldn't be that shocked. But I would say I do like to surf. I think that's something that
Oh,
I have a affinity and love for surfing nowadays. I grew up as a competitive swimmer, but now it's like surfing more because I kind of get to travel a little bit.
yeah.
But I would say surfing a little bit.
So do you make it really that you plan to go somewhere because you want to find that wave somewhere?
Yeah.
Is that how it
Yes.
is?
Yes. Yes. Definitely. Definitely, it's about finding the right wave and finding sort of the right place to go surf community.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that's a really good point because when it comes to how I pick destinations, sometimes it could be based off architecture in terms of I want to see a particular hotel or hotel design or maybe the architecture of a city or town, and then I want to go surf and I want to see this great beach break and definitely enjoy a really comfortable surf community and lifestyle for a few days. So, yeah, I would say when it comes to travel, I'm a little bit all over the place too.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we have to live the life at fullest and see new things, and that's something I enjoy very much to
Yeah, right.
have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah,
Oh, very good.
yeah, I enjoy
We,
it.
yeah, I remember you asked me something which I had trouble answering. You talked about the quirky habits or routines that you stick to, and so I'm going to ask you this. Throw back that same question to you.
Okay, all right. Quirky habits that I stick to routine. It's so funny. I ask the question, but I never think of it for myself. But let me get just a moment to think about this one. Something that I do that's very quirky that helps me stick to my routine. Probably meditation and journaling. I think
Oh,
it's a bit odd nowadays. And yeah, I'm a big music guy. So some good jazz music,
oh,
put it on, get it going. I listen to everything, but jazz is a good thinking vibe. So I'll put that on. So maybe that's what I would have to answer.
yeah. I mean, jazz. I mean, I love jazz also. I mean, I tend to listen to very often to the same thing. Miles Davis.
Ah, Miles Davis. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Yeah, and I go back to that whatever he recorded in the '60s, for instance, and it's so. I mean, I get really goosebumps when I think about it because I think it was such a powerful what he did, but I also like what people are now. Jazz is, but it's like it's evolving all the time. New things are coming up, new
Right.
inspirations are coming up, and so that makes it very interesting. I was watching this Tiny Desk concert.
Uh
There's
huh.
something that
Yep.
you can see,
Yeah.
and I was watching Bob James.
Oh.
Now, Bob James, the pianist, he's been around quite a long time,
Yeah.
and now he was very annoyed and angry that some of his songs had been used for streaming, particularly from the hip hop and the rappers were using to. But well, he was then decided to contact them rather than being angry, and then was invited to, I think, to Blue Note in New York to one of the DJs and the rappers, and now they are doing something together. So there is in just as a tip, it's worthwhile to watch this YouTube with Bob James from Tiny Desk concert where he's actually doing something together with. Don't ask me the name of the rapper, but I liked him very much, and also the DJ was fantastic. So the whole setup was unbelievable. It just shows how like jazz kind of evolves according to the generations and new things, and I really enjoy that also.
Very, very true. Of course, New York has a pretty massive jazz scene around here, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to take a listen to Bob James, and it was a Tiny Desk on YouTube.
Yes.
Definitely gonna check it out and see what he was able to sort of cook up and chef up. You know?
Yeah, it was a struggle in the beginning, but he got there.
Definitely have to give it a shot, man. Have to.
Yeah, yeah. That's just something I ask everyone who are coming, who are my guests here. Is that because I like technology. I mean, not overdoing things, but I love technology, and particularly in hospitality and hotels, it has evolved quite a bit, particularly since the pandemic or the COVID period was. And you could start to see a lot of self-check-in, digital concierges and keyless entries. And I'm just curious to get your view on automation in hotels. How do you like that automation? Do you want to have book a hotel online and then you have a keyless entry and you don't see anyone, or you want to have somebody who that you can talk to? And where do you think this industry, as far as you're concerned, is going?
Right. So I think automation is. I do like automation. I do want to make sure. I appreciate a seamless check-in process. I appreciate keyless entry. I appreciate those aspects that technology can sort of aid as it relates to the hospitality industry. Where I think the connection is really is not necessarily in the check-in. I think it's in the food and beverage. It's in having a nice bar, a nice lounge, places where people can listen to music and just enjoy each other, and be able to converse with whomever is around. And that's kind of where I believe community is. Also, community is involved in the surroundings. These are things that automation can't touch, in my opinion. And I wouldn't want to do it even if it became possible. Let me not jinx it. So if it does become possible, I would not want that to be part of what we are offering. But in terms of the check-in process, in terms of the sort of requesting any service, I think automation is perfectly fine. I think that it helps. I do believe that it also places a bit of ease on the individuals who are servicing this particular product to their guests. I think the guests do appreciate that too. So I want to implement automation to that degree, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
But for everything else, in terms of the sort of the dining aspect, in terms of the activity aspect, in terms of the art aspect to it all, I prefer the people approach. I prefer the sort of you actually smelling, tasting, and feeling where you are.
Good. Okay. And besides what you just mentioned, are there some trends that you see happening? I mean, you're living in New York and you travel quite a bit. Are some sort of trends in travel or in hospitality that people who are listening, particularly who are in the hospitality, that I should take note of?
I actually think the luxury brands are definitely stepping the game up. They're actually adding a lot more culture aspect, community aspect to their product. And I think that's a good thing, honestly. That's something that you didn't see before. Those particular traits fell on the quote unquote boutique side of things, while you had the mid tiers and the low budget brands sort of just servicing you a bed and a place to sleep and a place to eat. And then the luxury brands were just offering you opulence. And I feel like the opulence and the community that the boutiques were kind of offering are kind of merging into one. So that's one trait that I see, at least in New York, for sure. As it pertains to globally, I'm still lurking and still trying to see where there are new opportunities and new sort of ideas being formed that possibly aren't taking place in the States or even in New York City, the Mecca.
Yeah, I found that there are a number of hotels that are stopped the dinner experience in hotels, and they found that people are, particularly hotels that are in an area in cities where you have a lot of restaurants. So now, what used to be something that absolute no that you could not order delivered food. Now some hotels are actually accepting it, that they agree on that, and in fact they promote the list of restaurants where you can order, and then all you just have to do it to pick up the the food that you have ordered from the reception. But of course, this is on what we call the economy scale hotels, economy level hotels, because they know that the guests are anyway not going to would not use the restaurant in the evening because they felt that they only focus on breakfast. In fact, we stayed in a hotel in Seoul where the breakfast is really the main meal of the day that the restaurant is serving. Yes, they have lunch because there's a business people, but dinner, everyone goes out. So there is depending on location, I think that, but then you, of course, you have the luxury hotels that have, they're priding they have a Michelin star chef who has his name on that restaurant and then becomes the identity of the hotel deals with actually relates to the chef who is having his restaurant. So there are different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Breakfast is a very popular option amongst a lot of hotels. It's a standard. I think just in general, most breakfast remains the same, no matter where you are. I mean, there are slight changes or enough, but I believe they generally remain the same. And then lunch is kind of where you experiment just a tad bit. But dinner, I tend to believe that the hotel brands, as you mentioned, have noticed people are exploring more of wherever they are and looking to seek elsewhere outside of the building that they are in to enjoy to enjoy their dining experience. And yeah, of course, you have the brands who are offering the Michelin star life, and if you can't experience that, right within your building, then take advantage of it. But if you're in a place that has multiple restaurants, multiple offerings, and your local guide or your friend or a stranger tells you, hey, try this place that's not too far from where you are, or it's to die for, you got to do it. I think that risk is worth taking. So that's why
So, well, great, Jelani. It's been a great discussion, and I think my final question is that if people are interested to find out more about your activities and what you're doing, so how can they do so?
So to find out more about the Wapechi Collection, you can go to wapechi.com. So it's WAPECHI.com. We're also on social media at the Wapechi Collection on Instagram. That's actually all we're on. Instagram, and then LinkedIn is for myself. I also have my own website page. You can keep up with the different business ventures that I have going on in terms of the Wapechi Collection, Pay Me Plane Tickets, and then of course the forthcoming foundation called See It to Believe It. And that's just my name, so JelaniMillard.com. And yeah, that's where you can follow me around. And
cool.
Hopefully I can be more connected, but definitely I'm available.
Very good. I think you are very well connected, and I follow you on LinkedIn, obviously, and then on Instagram. So it's you're very active. So it's good. So anyone who is really interested, you're easy to find, and your ventures are very fascinating. I mean, the foundation as one is really wonderful to hear what you're doing, and then Ghana, that's something very special.
Just trying to do it, use my resources as best as possible.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. Well, Jelani, it's been a pleasure. So thanks very much for taking the time and for this discussion. So look forward to continue our relationship and do many things together.
Of course, Sam. I look forward to working with you, and definitely thank you for having me on. And yeah, it's been a great time. It's been great, sharing a little bit, being on the other side of the mic. You got to put me to the fire a little bit.
Oh, I was not, no curveballs. I was just easy. Good. I'm going to press stop record now. So I'm going to edit it, obviously, and take out some of the last pieces. But
yeah, this was fun, man. I love it.
Yeah. How did you find being a guest on my show?
It was wonderful. It felt smooth. It felt seamless. I got to sort of, think a little bit differently. Again, I got to answer the questions that sometimes I throw at others, and kind of think on my toes there. But I really enjoy how you run it. It's calm. It's comfortable. yeah, I'm ready for a part 2.
Let's do it. All right. Listen, Jelani, I think you had a start of the day, so and I'm towards the evening here. Yeah. So it's been great to connect with you, and let's keep in touch.
Of course, yeah, I'll be around. I'll be available. Definitely, just email me or LinkedIn me or message me. I'm here.
All right. Cool. Take care.
Be safe, man.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on The Social Hotelier Show. Make sure to visit our website, The Social Hotelier Show, blueberry.net, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, or via RSS, so you never miss a show. While you're at it, if you find value in this show, we appreciate a rating in Apple Podcast, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that will help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.